ready? Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this Monday's edition of National Matters. In the studio with me, I have the president of a political party, United Front for a Strong Foundation, President Brian Chisengalumbe. Welcome to the program.
Pastor, it's always a pleasure to be on Cabinet TV, not just another station.
Not just another channel.
Not just another channel. No, always a pleasure, and good evening, viewers.
Thank you. You see that advert about your coming to visit us?
Yes.
My wife saw you in a glove, which you are wearing.
Yes.
And she said, was the president playing golf or what it is? I said, I'm sure it was taken when he was playing golf. Now it's like, it's a new culture where presidents have to wear gloves. Yes, what is your...
Well, fundamentally, I think I decided to take this concept of a glove. It comes from the idea that when you look at people who form parties, those who come out of government are already known. Those of us who are forming parties and we've never been in government, people fail to remember who you are. They may like what you say, but they can't remember your name and things like that. So we decided a symbol, we must have a symbol. So I always wear the glove. If they don't remember my long name, they'll remember that the fellow that wears a glove. But that's not it. That's not all. The other issue is that of reminding, first of all, ourselves as a party that one of the things that's killing Zambia is the idea of not having the truth being told. So this symbolizes also John 8 verse 32, the truth shall set you free. Zambia is trapped in poverty because we are not true to ourselves. We are not, our leaders are not honest to us, and we ourselves subscribe to the dishonesty. We are part of the problem. So when I sit here, I try by all means stick to the truth and say things the way they are supposed to be said, rather than to glossing over the truth. So this in itself is a reminder to both myself and the nation that for us to ever be free, only the truth shall set us free. I'll go further in describing what I'm wearing. What I'm wearing, the shirt has black and in the sleeves and the collar. Darkness has been hovering over Zambia. Until we can push darkness to the periphery of our society, we'll always have problems. And that darkness comes with half-truths. We have to be honest with ourselves. Even as we discuss the Constitution, there is an element of not being honest to ourselves in terms of what is the most important thing we need to do as a nation to move forward. And the Constitution is itself the foundation. You can't build a nation without a foundation. So if the Constitution is defective, it means everything we are doing on a weak foundation. So these are the symbolic things that we, as a party, have chosen to pick up and carry. And that's why even in our name, the most important thing is foundation. United Front, to unite right-thinking Zambians to rebuild the foundation, which is brought from Psalm 11 verse 3, which says, if the foundation be destroyed, what should the righteous do? The foundation is destroyed. What should the righteous do? In answering that question, the righteous must come together. First and foremost, the righteous must come together. Right-thinking Zambians. And it's not only the spiritual phrase, but right thinking. Right thinking Zambians is, you could say, a nation, Zambia as a nation, is being led by the masses. the educated people are following those who are less educated. We are not using the best brains of the nation. We have to reverse that equation and get the educated people to start providing leadership to the masses of the Zambians. That's what they are looking for.
May I ask this, President Ssengalobwe? I feel, on behalf of those who are not educated, are you saying, are you saying the people who are not educated do not fit to be presidents? They cannot lead the nation? Only the educated? Is that what is coming out of your mouth?
In every field, Pastor, there are certain skills you have to develop to do certain things. If you have a nation where anybody can come and can become president without the necessary skills, this is a problem we have in the whole continent. Because the reason why every person, even the uneducated, the masses, the people they call, who are called the common person, takes their child to school is to do what? Is to be able to rise to a level where not only can they look after themselves, but contribute to society. Now, if you have a society where the less educated are leading and the educated people are following, I can tell you, Pastor, never in any world that any country that has progressed has that worked.
I want to draw your, we'll come to our subject tonight, President. I want to draw your attention to our fathers and mothers who have been chiefs. They are royal highnesses. Some have never been to school. They've never entered the classroom. They've gone to the throne by the virtue of their rights.
Exactly.
And you find that they lead masses. In a village, there could be 20,000, there could be 15,000. But when you look at their wisdom and leadership which they provide, you cannot equate it to some of the political lunatics I see in the world. You know, you find decent royal highnesses with a heart for their subjects. But in political circles is sometimes, what can I get out of this? Now, I still want to bring you back that to govern a nation, it is meeting the people at their needs. If they are hungry, what have you got to feed their stomachs? It has nothing to do with mathematics, auditing who stole, who did what. And may I go further? Chiefs like King of the Barose was Dedi Tunga, our father, Chief Mukuni, Chief Mpezeni, even my chief, Chitimukulu. They are surrounded by the so-called indunas. The people that have gone to school, they've got university degrees, they've got this, but when they sit to advise the king, if I go with my foolish algebra question, the chief will simply say, okay, Pastor Chiluba, I'll get back to you in a minute. The meeting will be adjourned, and he'll go to the indunas and say, I didn't understand that. What do you think? Then they will say, oh, Your Royal Highness, he meant this. By the time we are meeting at 14 hours, when I get the wisdom from my father or my mother, it is a totally different ball game. But in politics, alas, some of the people who even advise presidents, some of them are criminally minded because of their too much education, because of their hatred against this one, against that one. So when you compare the traditional leadership to a political leadership, I would rather fall for the traditional leadership. I grew up under that, and our forefathers and mothers were just reservoirs of wisdom. But when it comes to you politicians, the other problem is that there is no school which educates a president. As you are aspiring to be president of Zambia, There is no college degree, diploma, no degree. In most cases, you just image. Ngola sana elo lalanda sana tawakwatano monso. People will start clapping at they are able to refire. That kind of thing. So how do you distinguish between meeting people's needs and also just being a president because you've got 5 PhDs and yet you are arrogant, you take no nonsense. Any person brushing you on the wrong side, they are in for it.
Pastor, I'm glad you brought that question because I'll start from the traditional leaders. One of the biggest problems with our traditional leaders, they have failed to evolve with time. Traditional leaders preside over people who are called villagers. They are subjects. All these things denote more or less ignorance and poverty. Their people have been locked in history. The so-called subjects who our chiefs preside over don't have title to the land in most cases. So they have failed to evolve to a modern governance system. So I would not, if you talk about prosperity, we are struggling with IMF now, and we're talking about economics. The people who are called villagers and subjects under the chiefs are not part of the economic equation for the country. That's number one.
Yeah,
so
but,
wait, Pastor, that is not, they are not part of the economic equation. Even when you talk of business, you don't think of villagers who are called common people, the masses. But also, when you talk about wisdom itself, wisdom has 2 components, knowledge and understanding. Now, knowledge is not merely local. In the modern world, it's not local knowledge only. You must be able to fit into the international picture as a nation and as a village and so on. Because when you talk about chiefs, you can talk about royalty in Europe. It has evolved where the chief doesn't give land anymore. The Queen of England doesn't get involved in daily transactions of land. The people have title. Here, you have our own local people who have no title deeds. They are called villagers, and which it's not even respectful. Because when you say Wakamushi, villagers, it denotes ignorance, people who are in poverty. That's why everybody has run away from the rural areas, from the chiefs. All their subjects have come and gotten educated and run away from the chiefs because they are not evolving. They are cultural entities, yes, it is good, but they are not evolving. So now what I wanted to emphasize is that in the modern system, when you say wisdom, it's knowledge. And knowledge is acquired by going, 1, to school. There's informal knowledge from the homes, which is also cultural. But the knowledge to school allows you to compete in a modern society. So when you are a chief who lacks modern education, you are already limited. But now coming to the behavior of the leaders, if you look at from 1964 today, when you talk about knowledge, yes, we've had doctors and so on, professors in ministerial jobs. Yes, education does not guarantee you morality. No, it doesn't. Morality is derived from culture. What Zambia has lost is that the culture values in Zambia have been lost in general. So whether people get educated in Zambia, they are anchored on the wrong cultural values. And allow me, Pastor, to refer to Galatians 5. Galatians 5, verse 19 to 21 talks about the fruits of the evil spirit. Greed, drunkenness.
Galatians 5,
verse 19 to 21. Talks about the gifts of the evil spirit.
The Holy Spirit.
No, evil spirit.
Yeah,
The Holy Spirit is from 22 to 25. Okay? So, That is that is exactly. Now, when you look at these two, I ask you, where is the nation of Zambia anchored on? If you look at our society as a Christian nation, where are our values anchored? Are they anchored more on the fruits of the evil spirit, or on the fruits of the Holy Spirit? You will find that we are anchored more on pleasure and entertainment, matters of the flesh. So even if we get educated, Pastor, we have a cultural problem. Anyone we put in leadership does not serve the people. The agenda is always directed towards personal gain and partisan interests. That's why we are where we are today, Pastor.
When it comes to the Bible, I will teach you, and I will teach the nation. You should come on the program called The Ministry. Okay. That's where I handle Bible. Today, yes. I want to handle the Constitution, yes. And I won't be tempted to start unpacking the scriptures, Pastor, lest I take most of your time.
I am your flock, so
that's right.
I also anchor my beliefs, political beliefs, on the word of God.
You are a good president. I'm just saying I don't want to take that route.
No.
Or else
I'll make references, but we won't go into
absolutely. Okay. I still come back, President, until we are on the firm foundation.
Okay.
I'll make reference to one chief whose name appears on my national registration card from Chinsali.
Yes.
Chief Chibe Sakunda. He died last year. May his soul rest in peace. That chief was one of the most educated individuals in Zambia. Those watching the program can attest to this. And he went as a chief and said he will be a chief to just transform Chinsali and to teach the people on businesses. When you sat under that chief, apparently he used to come to my church also, but when you sat under Chief Chibe Sakunda, you would be amazed to say, why can't this man become a politician? As a chief there, the knowledge that he had and what he was offloading in our village, Chinsali, it was amazing. Now, I cite Chief Chibe Sakunda just as one chief among the many chiefs that I know personally. I don't want to call them by their names, who have degrees and who are highly educated, but they've chosen to be chiefs. And yes, in every village, in every bush, there is a saying, "Atumusukuvi utushempanga." You may see one chief, or you may look at like these headmen who sold 8,000 hectares of land here, Diteta, Chibombo. How on earth can you give 8,000 hectares of land to a Chinese and they make the drainage? And that one, I await to see how the government will react to it, because that's a national scandal. Why not arrest all the headmen? Because it is clear in the law, the chief can only give 250 hectares of land. Who empowered them to sell 8,000 hectares of land, including graves of their ancestors?
That's my point.
So
that we are dealing with a defective system.
Yeah, but this cannot be heaped on the chief. I am saying the law now should move in and arrest the headmen because they did not follow the law. And even if a chief breaks the law these days, you can go to jail. The law will follow you. So I am simply saying, I go back again to leadership, that in politics, President Chisengalumbwe, you have every Jim and Jack just coming out. And you are so good as politicians to give promises. When promises start coming, you even say, this is the Messiah. But I normally tend to think that politicians, you are just the same. You are like the knees. one knee is left knee, this one is right knee. But the characteristics and the behavior, when you are outside the circle of influence, everything becomes good. But when you go in, people start saying, we are the masters, we are the masters.
Well, like the issue of the constitution.
Anyway, let's go over the chiefs.
I want to answer that particular question of the behavior of politicians. The blame is not on the politicians, Pastor.
It's on?
It's on the nation. A nation must have national values. Okay? And which, if you remember, the president went to parliament and expounded a lot on Zambia's national
Which
values.
president?
President Hichilema. Expounded because they are in the constitution. There are national values tabulated. But from the national values, you derive a national agenda. An agenda which you as a nation have agreed that we will be going this direction, regardless of which party is in power. What Zambia doesn't have, despite the large pool of intellectuals which were trained by the UNIP government and success up to date, we have no national agenda. That's why we tend to put in people in government and start waiting, because we have no yardstick that we've agreed on as a nation that this is our national agenda. May I explain a little bit further? When South Africa became independent, they wrote one constitution. Do you know why? Because the whole nation was agreed that what was happening under the apartheid era should never happen, even under an African government. So they wrote a constitution that corrected all the errors that were in the apartheid. Let me not say all the errors, but the way they changed the constitution and created a national agenda which was all-embracing. Under the rainbow name, they wrote one constitution. After UNIP, when UNIP came into power, UNIP adopted a lot of the colonial practices to protect itself from leaving power. When MMD came, they also adopted a lot, other than multipartyism, they adopted a lot of things. But there was no national agenda that was created when we removed the colonialists. And even when we removed UNIP, that was an opportunity now to write a constitution that would have corrected our problems. So when we say that politicians tell lies, it's not the politicians who are a problem. We have no national agenda which protects our national values.
So will you also, when you become president, will you justify yourself that, no, I never tell the lies, it's because we have no national agenda?
I'm not even waiting to be president, Pastor. My position and that of our party is to first of all deal with a national agenda. Once we agree what that national agenda is, it doesn't matter who is going to rule us. The yardstick for measuring them will be the national agenda. That's why today people are saying, let's wait, it's only 1 year UPND is in power. Wait for what? What are you waiting for? You should know what you want for the country. We don't know what we want. Therefore, anyone we put in power, we go and wait. We wait sometimes for 5 years, then 10 years. Then we are so angry that when we go to remove a government, we don't even look at who we're bringing into government. We just look at who we are chasing. And we are so angry, everybody on the line, when they are voting out the government that's going out. They are not voting for a government that's coming in. That's where now I was referring to the privileged people in the country, educated people, to start providing leadership to the people, because that's when we start dealing with ideologies rather than ethnicity. Most of the political parties, other than MMD, have their strongholds in rural areas. Why? Because it's not ideologically driven. The educated people follow the masses, meaning the masses have been loyal to UPND. At one time, the masses were loyal to PF. These were rural strongholds. Why is there no parties that have strongholds where the educated people are clustered? Lusaka, Copperbelt. There's no party with a stronghold here because the educated people are not providing leadership. They've got the knowledge, but not the courage.
President Sata said, and I quote, educated people are the most cowards. That they are cowards, they fear to speak.
Pastor, we have universities. When you have presidential debates, they are supposed to be held at the university. Here, who holds presidential debate? Media houses have to take up that role. Where is our collection of knowledge? Where are our best brains? They are at universities. They are clustered in Lusaka and the Copperbelt. What do they do politically? Right now, we're dealing with IMF. Have you heard a comment from any university analyzing what we are sitting on? Quiet. Why? Fear. Universities are the bastion of knowledge. When you are advising, you're not advising because you are partisan. You are advising because you are nationalistic. So when you are university, you are research people, you are very educated. You must be able to guide people.
In any case, President Sengalumbwe, I know you, and you and I come a long way from the time we were in schools in Kabwe.
In shorts.
In shorts. I should have started with this, but I was carried with your comments about the chiefs. Who is Branch Sengalumbwe?
Okay, I'm Brian Munsoli Sengalumbwe. Unfortunately, I use Brian. I found it on my grade 7 certificate. Yeah, I'm Brian Sengalumbwe, born 1959 in Kitwe, Sakile Hospital. Yeah, which makes me a Kopala. But then I grew up in Kabwe, as you well know. I went to Kabwe Secondary School, basically from about grade 2 up to Form 5 then, what we would call grade 12. Yeah, when I finished school, I went straight into insurance. I did my insurance training with Zambia State Insurance, where I worked and rose up to the position of general manager. Left, set up a broking firm. From there, I really felt there was something wrong in our governance system. I really decided that I'm going to dump everything and I'm going into politics. So I supported President Sata coming to power. And fortunately, or maybe unfortunately, but I would rather say fortunately, I was a bit too independent for the party circle, so I really didn't find my space in the party. And at some point I thought, well, maybe time had come for me to express my political ambitions in the way I thought they should be. And so I got together with a couple of friends and we decided to form a party. And that's how I'm sitting here today as a president of the United Front.
Now that you left PF or you are part of PF?
No. I was part of the process to remove MMD. Yeah, I was very bitter with MMD, and I knew the only person that could remove them was one who had been with them, who was President Sata then. So, and I knew he was going to be president because his style and his message was resonating with the people. So I joined him in 2006. So I didn't jump on the bandwagon when he was going into State House. No, I was part of the team, the campaign teams in the background. Yeah, and well, when PF got into power, I was not one of the favored people too. I never saw the daylight of saving the nation in PF, which later to me became really a blessing. Yeah, and at some point I felt that time had come for me to express my political beliefs in the way I think this nation should be going.
I am so grateful that you have got this journey on politics. Before we go to the Constitution, I was playing golf with one of the seasoned lawyers, Mr. Chimuka.
Yes.
We were on hole number 17 and at Lusaka Golf Club, and the Constitution issue came up. Then he said, Pastor Chiluba, are you aware that Britain does not have a written constitution? I said, how so? He says, they follow their laid down rules or whatever, how they govern themselves. These things were laid way back by their forefathers and mothers. And the Bible is also clear. It says, do not remove the ancient landmarks. I am a firm believer of that.
Yes.
As I wanted to seek more knowledge from his legal mind, then he said to me, Pastor Chuba, when you married your wife, did you pay lobola? I said, yes, I did. He says, from which constitution? Is it written somewhere that when you are marrying a lady, you must pay lobola? I said, no, I just found it. I was just told, lobola. He says, that's how Britain is governed. I'm saying that, President Ssengalumbe, because what is happening in this nation, it's a sad state of affair. Mm-hmm. You are having, even now, men who are dressing like girls, like women. And the government is aware about what is going on the social media. Mm-hmm. And the police, Lemi Kajoba, I'm sure his men know what is happening. Yeah, where you are having men parading themselves with lipstick, with everything, and the nation is sitting back watching. When I speak as a pastor, I'm branded as a person who is backward. Mm-hmm. Our forefathers did not allow what the stupidity that goes on in some circles. Mm-hmm. And I know this is a way where international organizations are paying money to people so that they can, Zambia can start and slowly accepting these things. Is there anything in the Constitution that talks about the moral values that we should not degrade ourselves to copy and paste of the American Constitution, who allow anything, Jim, Jack, whatever, soon or later? Trust me, President Ssengalumbe, you hear that don't call me he, call me she, because I feel trapped
in the wrong body.
In my body.
Yeah.
Is there anything in the Constitution that?
Well, first and foremost, I think it's enshrined in the national values, which talk about morality, ethics, and so on. And when you talk about morality and ethics, you talk about a society and what it believes in, and what it doesn't accept. Now, when you talk about America, America must be looked at totally different, because America, their fundamental principle when America was being created is that every human being is born equal. Okay, so now with that statement, America is a country built by different cultures. So it doesn't have one culture to say this is American. There is Chinese, Spanish. Now when you come to Zambia, we are one type of people. And therefore, what America would accept as being normal cannot be accepted here. So in our laws, anything that is contrary to the Bible is not legal. Because our cultural values are, obviously, they are older than religion, because religion found our cultures. But the two have meshed together. And when we were writing a constitution, that's what we took into consideration. So it is unfortunate that we would reach a stage like that, and when things begin to happen that offend culture. You see, so I think, as you rightly put it, there are laws. Such laws like, if you defame the president, you are arrested. You can see how quickly the police would react. So whether a law is bad or not, it's a law, and that's what a society has chosen to be a standard. And I can well imagine that your agitation with and your vigor about the whole thing, both culturally and religiously, that this nation does not accept anything other than a man and a woman. So it goes back, Pastor, to our history. Where did we lose our identity? The first place we lost our identity is language. English brought us together, but at the same time, it has destroyed our thinking. And that we have to accept. And without our own culture being center stage, especially in Lusaka, this would not happen in the other provinces. But because Lusaka is the driving seat of the nation, all the money and all the power is centered in Lusaka, we are in danger of our deteriorating morals because Lusaka is cosmopolitan. It's got so many. Where would you find your own culture, especially to the young children? They're not. The culture is not being taught at home. Some kids cannot even speak their own language. So we have a crisis, Pastor.
May I ask you a question, President? Was it a right thing for UPND to remove Ministry of Religious Affairs and National Guidance? Was it the right thing?
The ministry, in my own opinion...
In a Christian nation, take that in your background.
Yes, Pastor, that's a different subject. It's a very hot subject. The ministry, in my opinion, was ill-conceived. Because when you are creating ministries, it usually goes with budget lines, where you are saying, if you have Ministry of Sport, it's a national thing that needs support. And so that Ministry of Sport is given a budget line and is supposed to support and build sport. The church does not need government. It is supposed to check government. And therefore, it was, first of all, ill-conceived for that ministry to say religious affairs. I would have preferred if it said religious national guidance and religious and cultural principles. That is totally different.
Whatever it is, you could have changed it yourself. You could have changed it as politicians, or the UPND could have changed to national guidance, scrap religious. But it's because in the Constitution, in the preamble, and now I'm told it's even in the Constitution, it was declared by President Frederick Chilubandi's cabinet that Zambia shall remain a Christian nation living in tolerance with other religions. That religious groups all the people who believe in God, whether through Hindu, through Islam, through Christ, through what, it groups. So it's religious affairs with national guidance. This is where we are seeing men dressing in petticoats and nobody, wait a minute, we are seeing men and women, men dressing in dresses, petticoats, and there is no one coming in because, according to you, there is no one with a budget to control those immoral behaviors that are going on in Zambia.
No,
okay.
no, Pastor. The religious affair the ministry is not the one who created the law that talks about lesbians and gay couples and everything. That law was already there. It wasn't that ministry. And I would also want to make a correction that in a constitution, the drafting principles of a constitution, no single person or a group of persons can tolerate another. Equality before the law. No one can tolerate another. So when we are drafting a constitution, Pastor, one of the problems we have, I love the fact that you talked about Britain has no written constitution. We have one which has over 200 or 300 pages. I think it's over 200 and something. That is, the American Constitution is 12 pages. Our Constitution is full of emotions. It's full of emotions. That is not the way you write a Constitution. You don't write a Constitution by having 500 people voting. On a Constitution, it's not about voting. It's about principles, the right principles. So if as a nation, you have your national agenda very clear, which includes what you are talking about, the LGBT problem. You have your national agenda very clear. And when you write your Constitution, it will be very clear on all those issues, because cultural values are taken care of, religious principles are taken care of. But when as a nation, you have your national values are stated in the Constitution, but to achieve those, you have no national agenda. Therefore, even when you write Constitution, 6 constitutions have failed because we don't know who we are and what we want to be. So what you are seeing today is a derivative of a country with a ruined foundation.
But if you listen to President Xavier Chishimba, he proved clearly that Zambia has no constitution because you can only amend something which you started. But this constitution from 1964, it's called the Amendment 1964, whatever. It's a British, it's something which was handed over to us. And the President Xavier Chishimba proved that. He has been on this for a long time, that Zambia doesn't have a constitution. I stand here, I sit here, I can bring President Xavier Chishimba with all the presidents in this nation to come and argue with him. I think he has done a thorough research. But what I'm saying, President Ssengalumbwe, is that morals, whether written or not written, should be there.
That's
when I was, okay.
That now becomes culture.
Okay, that should be reinforced.
Exactly.
That should be reinforced. If culture is to be enshrined in the Constitution, so be it. Because when I was growing up and you did something wrong as a boy, it was not your father or the mother who beat you. It was any elderly person who saw something wrong and evil in your character, conduct. You'll be beaten, taken to your parents, and those elderly people will say, your son was doing this, including some of the things that I can't mention here. When the parents, the elderlies, know that akakamwanak, imisango ikakalenga tikakabili ule, tibakumakulya, elo bakutwala nakuli banoko, nabaweso. Your father and mother will beat you, and they will thank the elderly people for doing that. Okay? This is where, if you go back again to my question about politicians and our chiefs, how they governed two different things. Our chiefs would call you are wrong. They will punish you right there and then. And probably banish you from their chiefdomship. Okay? Now, I am saying, if there is no law, if there is no organization to control what's going on, what should Zambia do? Should we just watch and start accepting that, well, equality?
Well, first I want to also answer a part of your point where you are making reference to the loss of cultural values. As a nation, we lost identity long time ago, because when India was becoming independent and the British were leaving, if you compare to what happened in Zambia, in India, when the British were leaving, they failed to change the way they dress. They failed to change what they eat, to a large extent. When you compare India and Zambia today, let us look at dressing. But our own dressing, which identity do we have? The laws are the closest to having any form of identity as a group. But as a nation, we have nothing. We are the most westernized country in Africa because we pride ourselves, Pastor, for speaking good English. We are the best English speakers. Any Zambian, the average Zambian will be asked, where did you go to school? Because people think we went to school in Europe. So when you lose your culture and you lose your values, what is left is absolutely nothing. And that's why our belief, Pastor, is that if we are going to preserve our cultural values, we need to delink the provinces from Lusaka. Lusaka is Zambia's biggest problem because those other provinces need some level of autonomy so that we do not produce Lusaka in southern province, Lusaka in northwestern. That is where we have a hope to retain our identity.
But Lusaka doesn't have a black mountain.
All the loans that, that are contracted are spent in Lusaka.
Those problems of the black mountain are coming from the copper belt. How do you transfer that to Lusaka?
No, but the poverty was created by Lusaka. The poverty was instituted by the central government in Lusaka. All the provinces are suffering. Those are artificial jobs. They are not real jobs. If they were real jobs, those problems wouldn't even exist. But because we have a centralized system, all the provinces are in abject poverty. And until we decentralize this nation, because Lusaka is it's not a Zambian city, a province. It's actually a European model of a province. But also, Pastor, the world is evolving, right? And therefore, the best defense against an evolving world is an evolving culture. If we are not going to begin to evolve as a nation, we will not be ready to face what is coming, because the new generation, you can't pull them back and force them to live in our history. That is gone. The best protection is to evolve your culture and identity while still maintaining progress. And that is the equation that we have lost. As we stand today, we have lost that equation.
In your introductory remarks, I heard you say that you are a president who anchors your beliefs in the Bible.
Yes, very much.
May I quote now at this point what the Bible says?
My pleasure.
The Bible says in Proverbs, train up a child in the way he should go. When he grows, he will not depart from that.
So,
and may I submit this, President? When you raise children in the fear of God, when you raise children knowing who they are before God, no matter how evolving the culture may be in the future, God will always preserve the remnant, people with the right mind of thinking, people with compassion, somebody who cannot just go and kill somebody for a TV, somebody to go and those things, evils will be there. But I'm saying when you train your children, I train my children, our neighbor trains the children, crime will go down on the basis of our children who are well trained.
But when you lose your culture, you don't have a common standard as a nation. So if we agree that Zambia has lost its culture, there is no common standard to training children. That is why, Pastor, 60% or even 70% of the children that get married today are in divorce within 5 years. You can train your child, but the one the child gets married to has no values, because the parents themselves ran away from the villages and thought that the cultural values are primitive, and they tried to be Europeans. This is the problem we have today.
I'll bring that cultural issue. I see that you and I have a lot to discuss. Let me go back to the law. As president of United Front, for a solid foundation, strong foundation, immovable foundation, I grew up not as a lawyer. I did the diploma with my wife at NIPA. We did law, and we went to diploma level, though I can tell you that I failed.
No, you just had a minor setback.
And
that your achievements, Father, because Pastor, because somebody may think when you say you failed that your life ended.
No, I'll tell you something.
That's a minor setback.
I'll tell you something.
But you acquired the knowledge.
My lawyer, my lecturer, Counsel Mungole, may he so rest in peace, will tell you that when the exam came, I switched to the international instruments. Where I'm supposed to put local instruments, I put international. That messed me up. But I'm admitting here, because in these days, there is what they are calling forgery. They go to NIP and say, bring the Pastor Chiluba's results. But my wife passed. However, I did law. Now, in law, there is Zambian law says you are innocent until proved guilty. You are right. Innocent until proved guilty.
Yes.
In France, you are guilty until you prove yourself innocent. I want to ask, what's going on here? It's becoming a source of concern, especially with DEC and Drug Enforcement Commission. When I buy a car or I have a vehicle, a house, which they didn't know, when they are coming to investigate me, the first thing is we have arrested Pastor Chiluba for possessing properties suspected to be proceeds of crime. Before I go to court and prove my innocence and produce the receipt, what you have created in the minds of people is that Pastor Chiluba is a criminal. And everyone who sees me, they will see a suspect, a criminal. Is that good according to the law and in the Constitution? As president, would you encourage DEC and the anti-corruption, whoever they suspect, when they are coming to repossess things, they rush to the press, and I don't know why they are press happy to say Pastor Chiluba is possessing property suspected to be proceeds of crime.
Meaning there is no evidence.
Is that a good thing or reporting?
Pastor, to answer that question, we're a poor country, okay? And in a poor country, we need development, okay? So when you go to the advanced countries and find mafia, drug barons, thieves, they know where they stay. They don't catch them. Why? Because they have laws which are very clear and there are no contradictions. They have laws. But they also know that part of the employment creation is created by thieves, because you will never, as long as we are on earth, we will never get rid of corruption. We will never get rid of prostitution, as long as we live here on earth. So what Europe has done is to make the best out of the situation. They have laws that allow thieves to, if they can't catch them, to allow them to grow the economy. Now, when you put a law that empowers the police to be arrested based on suspicion, what it means is that you're slowing down the economy. Job creation, because those same people who you are suspecting, whether innocent or not, have created jobs. Now, you have no evidence, and you've already rushed to the media. That entire business setup collapses. There are places like Las Vegas, where it's literally drug money that has created millions of jobs. But because the laws are specific, and it comes from the Bill of Rights, I think it's a Bill of Rights, which says that you are innocent until proved guilty. That law you are referring to is a direct contradiction. Nobody has taken it to court, and I'm very sure that if it was taken to court, that position would be reversed. It is very nice to be angry that your money has been stolen. But when you start that process, as you rightly put it, Pastor, that you end up being defamed and the matter goes nowhere. But because there is a provision for them to get your property, what it means is that there will be corruption and thievery, but the money will be hidden. Whatever you do, whatever we recover, if you recover 100 houses, that person has hidden more money than that. You need to get mileage out of it. But the Constitution itself must protect citizens. We should not be every day given this show of the negatives of society. We are supposed to be a growing economy, because that is very negative. That's what is in the highlight. It means when we are all failing to make money, we want everybody to be brought down. When we see somebody driving an expensive car, living a good life, and tomorrow we hear DEC has arrested them or SEC, we get happy. But that is killing ourselves, killing our economy. So, Pastor, that is one of the reasons why when UPND was in opposition, they said their first priority would be the Constitution, to amend the Constitution. And the amendment of the Constitution, in broad terms, means amending the legal framework in which we're going to govern ourselves. And that is the foundation of us to grow our economy. Because whether you like a person or not, how can there be no trail for them to be arresting a person? How can there just be no trail? Property suspected to be. No, and it is not correct for the stars in our society to be investigative agencies. That's what we are looking for news. No, that's very... How many cases are being investigated in Germany, in whatever? You can go in those societies, you will hear nothing. It would need to be a very big thing where they've probably captured a lot of drugs or a lot of money. That's when you hear about it. But here we are hearing 10 houses, whatever. It could be 100 houses. It doesn't really matter. But the point is, the law itself needs to be changed. We need a constitutional framework. And you see, Pastor, when you are amending laws, especially the Constitution, a ruling party cannot come to us like what the Justice Minister said. He said, we want to amend first the non-contentious issue. When you are touching the Constitution, it is not the ruling party to decide what is contentious and what is not. All that the Zambian people need today from the ruling party, they need the ruling party to give us a roadmap. After giving us a roadmap, they need to give us a technical committee and their terms of reference. And once the budget is provided, the technical committee runs independent of government. So all these problems we are talking about, Pastor, are related to the Constitution. If we don't amend the Constitution, we'll be in a circus. And there is no way that this country will gain any prosperity without us creating a strong foundation in a strong Constitution.
As a rider on that, President, my concern also comes, I must say this, I learned a lot of things, as you said, in developed countries. By the time they are bringing a case to the public, it's a done deal.
Yes.
They don't just mention names. Mailo Mwanjikata at the proceeds of crime, Pastor Chiluba. Tomorrow they come to you, proceeds of crime, Chivesa branch, Chisengalumbwe. It doesn't happen that way. I must say that I miss my brother, my cousin, Mwamba Makasa, who was one of the 3 top Scotland Yard agents in this nation. And very highly educated. He worked for DEC. And when I'm looking at what is happening now and the things he used to brief and what they do, pause apart. I submit this to you, President. How can my house or 5 houses be proceeds of crime? Are you underestimating my potential of building 5 houses? When you start to go in and say, this is outside what I'm saying, you say the first lady has 15 flats, surely. And you don't look at the preserving the presidency or dignity of our nation. You go and put 15 flats as a subject of discussion.
Pastor.
And what about, why does DEC and anti-corruption wait for people to leave office? Then they jump on them. Because, I don't know, I'm not accusing anybody. Some of the people serving now, 2-3 years from now, you hear that they are in this. But they can't be followed up now by DEC. Why is that?
Well, it's quite obvious. It's a trend that is all over Africa. And I think we should, as a nation, remove our standards from, I think, the level that the entire Africa is operating. We must remove ourselves and say, we're going to set a very high standard for ourselves. We can only learn from the rest of the world. But in coming back to your point, I wanted to, because what we are discussing, Pastor, is the law. Now, when you have a bad law, you can't blame the investigative agencies. Let me give an example of President Sean Tembo. He said and did something that caused the police to react. Okay, and he defamed the president. Okay, now as long as that law is sitting there, the policeman will tell you, all right. So I have been looking at all the people who have visited my brother in prison, and they've been asking President Hichilema to act. Now, how are you expecting President Hichilema to act? Is it to instruct the police to release him, to go against the law, or should we be discussing changing that law? The paramount issue is that there is such a law, and when the police act, it's because there is a bad law. So the subject matter is the constitution and the legal framework that we are sitting on. It is bad. And that is why, Pastor, we are discussing this topic. It is, we can go around and look at the bad laws. If there was an election, we'll talk about petition. We already are having by-elections. If I take you back to UNIP era, and you just look at UNIP, you were there, you went through, shall I say, you suffered through the last days of UNIP. What were the problems with the governance system? We had a president, a godlike president, Lesa Kumuru, Panshi Kaunda. So when we were coming out of that, in creating a national agenda, we would say we don't want any more gods to be presidents. How do you do that? Look at South Africa. The president sits in parliament and is grilled. We have not changed even that single thing. We have a situation where during UNIP era, it was called PIG, the party and its government. Party operative use government money to run the party. Up to today, maybe half of the UPND cabinet are NEC members. They use government fuel, they use government talk time, they use government. What is our national agenda? We haven't decided. The president appoints secretary to the cabinet, PSs, and so on. They have no security of tenure. How, as a nation, would you agree for party cadres, party operatives, to go and become PSs and sit on your public money? Is that normal? In Britain, they don't. The secretary to the cabinet is shielded from the president. to remove the secretary to the cabinet, there must be a tribunal. The same as the Bank of Zambia governor. That's how you separate. What is our national agenda? We have none. We allow things, anything that was wrong and was inputted into our system, we don't correct. Every government comes in and creates a worse situation, and it becomes a norm. So when we're talking about the laws, we can talk about ACC. As long as those bad laws are there, ACC are paid to enforce the bad laws. That's the law exists. If a policeman catches you somewhere and you complain, he'll always tell you, our job is to enforce. So as long as those laws are on our statutes, first we can talk the whole day. Tomorrow they will arrest, because that's their job with the bad law. If we correct that, you will find that even the size of government will be reduced, because you may find that at one point, perhaps even DEC was a department in ACC, but as you created bad laws, you even created institutions to enforce the bad laws.
But what I'm saying, President, I can go through. I'm not a 1991 baby. No, I think I've lived in this nation for a long time.
Your hair says it all.
I've lived in this nation for a long time. But what I'm saying, I know laws are there. Okay? What I would be arrested for now, or in MMD, let's go back to MMD. Arrested in MMD, when PF comes in two-party, chances are that I will be released and be re-employed in government.
Culture.
No, not culture. I'm talking about the government system.
Yes, yes, yeah.
Here is somebody who commits some crimes, runs out of the country, and goes somewhere. I'll just wait for the change of government. When I come back in another government, I'll have a job.
Culture.
So
you can't run away from our value system
Yeah.
is rotten, because it's not only the politicians that allow things to happen. It's because it is known that the society will accept such actions. That's why we are in that problem. It is the value system that we have as a nation that is rotten, which we need to rebuild. And the question should be, how are we going to rebuild that? It is in our educational system. Our educational system is not producing anything that will change. I love the fact that you talked about religious affairs and national guidance. What you're talking about, Pastor, very true. One of the things that Zambia needs to progress and prosper is cultural reorientation. And ingrained in that is culture and religious values. You are so correct. So there is no way a government is going to pay back IMF with the current culture and governance system that we have. Right? So to emphasize that, Pastor, I would say you don't put new wine in old wineskins. You elect new leaders, but the governance system is the same. Do you expect anything to change?
Where was the law when the people called the late President Mwanawasa a cabbage, and they said, you discover that I'm T-bone? He just laughed it off. And where were the investigative wings? Why didn't they jump on and say it is in the law?
Pastor, it will never be correct, even if a president himself tells the police, no, don't arrest anybody. It's not about individuals.
No, I'm talking about, I agree with you. I'm just following up on what you said.
Yeah.
President HH cannot interfere. I also want you to see how hypocritical systems can be. When President Mwanawasa was being defamed, President Sata called Satan, they never reacted to that. I'm not talking about the presidents. You see, I'm a firm believer that we should respect presidents. We should honor that, because that's, if you you disrespect our president, you are disrespecting the nation. I'm talking about the agents, the law enforcing agencies, how hypocritical they can be. Let me put it blunt, because me, I'm as straight as Cairo Road. You know, when you are doing certain things, I gave you an example. Certain people are not arrested in office. Even when there are some corruption going somewhere, and the people know about it, people will not be arrested.
Presidential powers. Again, we go to, wait,
wait a minute. I'm not talking about the president. I'm talking about, I'm a minister, I'm a PSC, Havana. Let's leave our president out. I am a minister of fruits and vegetables, plus the rain and the drainages.
Very powerful.
Ministry.
No, but the point I want to make is that the power of the presidency in Zambia is excessive.
It's excessive.
If you compare that to the power of a president in South Africa, it's minute.
And the Prime Minister of England, who can be grilled in Parliament for.
Exactly. So the powers of the president are one of Zambia's greatest problems. The president will go and appoint the ECZ board, appoint the chief electoral officer, come and appoint DEC, come and... So,
is he the one who appoints?
Pastor, the powers, I will repeat, the powers of the president are excessive. And that is why you find that...
I just know about the transferring of judges, that they can be transferred.
Well, no, I don't think he has powers to transfer them, other than through influence.
No, I'm not talking about the president. I'm talking about the judicial system, where they say all the 10 judges move out from Lusaka, go to those. I'm talking about the powers and the systems again.
Yeah. So it all goes down to the same thing, that our governance system needs to be changed. It will never deliver, because one thing I like is that UPN...
Mr. Director, please give me the phone numbers and everything so that people can start sending their messages and everything. We are about to take a break. Sorry. Yes, sir.
My point is the UPND, in their manifesto, they make reference to proportional representation. That's the complete change in our electoral system, and basically we are moving to a proportional representation in parliament, which is more like what we see in South Africa. Now, when we do that, it will shake our entire governance system, and that's what this country needs. You see, we can't be wallowing in poverty, and there are no sacrifices, and we're expecting that with the IMF money, we will come out of poverty, and yet we are still sitting and doing the same thing that has made us fail. We need a complete overhaul, and it starts with the Constitution. And it's really quite strange that the UPND government would find it more important to go and deal with the Public Order Act subsidiary legislation, hold national endeavors, for a law that was written by 3 Europeans or 4 Europeans. We start having a national endeavor, budgets, allowances, and everything. No, we need to go straight to the Constitution. And because the Constitution, you have the President appointed a Minister of Justice. There are 6 failed constitutions in his office, with 6 terms of references, and technical committees were appointed. All that is necessary is to give the nation a roadmap and give us the terms of reference. Because the terms of reference is what you've been talking about, Pastor. The problems that Zambia has, those terms of reference must be able to be telling us which way we are going to go, whether we are going proportional representation or continue with the current system. Mind you, Pastor, in our parliament, we have it's a 2-party parliament. Basically. In South Africa, there are 11 parties. Why? Because of their electoral system that they follow. 11 parties means there is debate in parliament. It's vibrant.
Mm.
And the president is not a god.
Mm.
Right? Here, the president is a god. He never goes to parliament.
Mm.
You can go and squabble. It's just MPs squabbling. If the MP wants to move, if the president wants to move anything, he calls the MPs to State House and tells them, go and walk out. And then they go back. But if you look at the South African system, it came years after we were independent.
Mm.
They have never corrected it. It is working very well.
Mm.
Without saying, let's copy. Perhaps I'm almost hinting. But it has worked for an African country.
But there again, when you see, it also used to be a two-party system, which was for the Boers and ANC.
Yeah.
When ANC came into power, it was two parties. Mm. Until Julius Malema was kicked out. Mm-hmm. Julius Malema comes up with his own party. And now there are other parties that are there, including my friend Kenneth Mashaw, Reverend Mashaw. Mm. He's got a party and he's a member of parliament there. So you don't have the monopoly there. They can grill you, yes. They can take you on. Mm. So here...
That variety, Pastor,
yeah.
is created from the fact that in the proportional representation system is that every vote counts. In Zambia, what happens is that when we go into an election and you want to remove a ruling party, even if you, Pastor, see my face on the ballot paper, you will say my vote won't count if I vote for him. Mm. He won't get in parliament. He won't do. So you end up voting for one of the two. And normally you vote for the one you hate. In terms of, it's a protest vote. You actually vote for the one you hate. In that you are saying, I want him out, so I'll vote these people in. But in the proportional representation system, it becomes ideological, because now you vote for me because you agree with my ideas. And if I have a certain percentage of votes, let's say 20% in a certain constituency, nationally, I'll also have 20% seats in parliament. You will know that I believe in this person. That's why they have that wide variety. That's why they have a well-spread political arrangement in parliament and basically in society. So there's a huge difference, because now if you go to, let's say, any constituency in Zambia and you say there are three parties, if you vote for the smallest party, your votes will be thrown away after. After they count, the winner takes it all. All these other votes are thrown away. They have no impact. And so that's why people tend to vote for two parties, because of wasted votes. Even if I vote for him, he will not go anywhere. That's the problem we have. Yeah.
We are going to go on break, President, but when we come back, we should be able to go deeper in this, because one of the things that you should enlighten me on, and apparently I happen to be close to one of the presidents. I've worked with all of them. And I said to him, sir, when you were in the opposition, you said the Public Order Act, I'll come and scrape it. Now that you are in power. And he said to me, Pastor, you are not a president. This law is very good for someone in power. But when you are in the opposition, you don't tend to amend certain things. It's like you politicians, you don't pay attention to how filth the cells are. You think they are for criminals.
For others.
But once they lock you up, that's when you say, when I become president, I'll clean the cells. But in any case, we are going to just ask my director to put one song, Ebu Miwandi, Lesa Wandi, the Peace Preachers. I like that song. But if my director has another song, he can put the director's choice. But after this break, I want us to look at some of the things that you, as politicians, you should talk about. And the problem is that when you are not in leadership, you have no voice. You and I are members of the Lusaka Golf Club, okay? And when they were doing the, Pakati, leadership changed, I saw that most Zambians, who are just civil servants, they stopped playing golf at Lusaka Golf Club. They would go to Chainama and they would go to Chilanga. I said, why? They said, Pastor, membership fee, what we need to maintain the club. I said, that's where you go wrong. Why don't you make the membership fee law? Find something. And what I proposed, President Sengalumbo, was, some of these trees you have here, they are irrelevant. You don't even know who planted them. Why don't you plant 1,000 avocado trees just here? Because one avocado tree will give you about 900 fruits. And when you multiply that, you sell, you call the marketeers to come and get the fruits from here. Amakedis, my calculation at that time was about 13.2 million kwacha from avocado trees. Bring that 13 point something million kwacha, take it into the coffers of the golf club, but allow somebody without money to come and play golf. Let the Zambians, feel they own this thing. Let them, it was shut down. They said, no, Pastor, golf is for the rich, it's not for the poor. We don't want to drop the standards. But for me, I'm looking at a Zambian enjoying his country. But nevertheless, let's go on break after this. Then you come and help me to understand certain issues.
Makayandi, Kwela Yandi, Mwe Ona Ishiba, Mwe Wandi, Makayandi, Kwela Yandi, Mwe Ona Ishiba, Ubukumbinga Nyubwe Mupashi, Lolu Selwa Kwe, Finga Banefwe, Ile Lono Muyaya Pe, Kambiga Mogufi Punch, Mewalo Mulwa, Nogu Totela, Pabusuma, Wava Mupashi, Nasangu Mweo, Nasangu Luce, Nasangu Mumi, Mulu Yure Sanazu, Come on, shout, say, Ebumi Wandi, Ebumi Wandi, Ebumi Wandi, Makayandi, Makayandi, Echumo Chandi, Kafye, Mwe Ona Ishiba, Lesa, Ebumi Wandi, Ebumi Wandi, Makayandi, Makayandi, Echumo Chandi, Kahe, Mwe Ona Ishiba, Napoye Chinso Chandi, Kuli Mwe Bamushilo, Natila Muliba Mushilo, Muyaya Pe, Muliba Mushilo, Muliba Mushilo, Muliba Mushilo, Bamushilo, Ichukuku Chedu, Nolo Selwenu, Fitubake, Yosefie, Panso Swabangeluba, Yili Balula Lokubonsa, Tapari Fiotwaba, Ugwabula Iweba Mupashi, Wemeshi Amumini, Webule Fwe Usumani, Tutapirishe, Tatwakabonse na Karia,
Ebumi Wandi, Makayandi,
echumo chanje emweyo naishiba Luliana ponenwa na mafia na masanswa ya pusana pusana enkondo ndi Yesu echumo chandi Yesu enkosho ulibosa bali na mafia eluselo ndi Yesu ebumi bwandi Yesu enkondo ndi ekachema musuma ebumi bwandi emakayandi echubo chandi emweyo naishiba ebumi bwandi emakayandi echubo chandi emweyo naishiba
natata kubukote atile bana bandi kale ni myebeko pano chalo twaikala paveshila shibili imoya kumusenda Yesu no kumubwesha pa musalaba mukupitila mumichitile yenu nemyendele yenu lelo kwaveshile ya chibili imoneke yakosa kumenso y'abantu lelo kumpela yaiko wabo bunonshi bwape munese kwa palilelo mairo ukasekelela na iwe n'abangeli kumulu muyaya yape
ebumi bwandi emakayandi echumo chandi emweyo naishiba ebumi bwandi emakayandi echumo chandi emweyo naishiba
Dear Camnet TV viewers, our phone lines are open, and you may have some questions to ask. You can text, you can phone, and I have in the studio President for United Front for a Strong Foundation, Mr. Brian Chisengalumbwe. It's an honor to have him here, and we are looking at these constitutional issues. One of the coming days, I'll bring the constitutional lawyers to come and deal with this, but being a president, he is aware of certain things that should be contained in the constitution or which should not be contained. Going back to President Sengalumba, in all these Islamic nations, the phones are open, by the way. Feel free to call, and may God bless you. You cannot have an Islamic nation without a ministry in charge of that, anywhere in the world. Talk about Thailand, where there is Buddhism. When I was there, there is a government portfolio for that, to preserve, like you said, the culture of Buddhism. Islam, same thing. In Iran, Ayatollah or something like that.
Yes.
But my only concern as a Zambian are the fast deteriorating morals in this nation. Like you said, Zambia is one country without culture, without firm principles, what we believe in and what we do not believe in.
Right. Hello.
And yet, in law, we discovered when we were studying there with my wife that there are two sets of laws. International laws and domestic laws.
Hello.
Before you internalize or you domesticate
Hello,
an international
Gabriel.
law, it must be agreed upon. It must go
Hello.
through the due process. But here, we are having a
Hello.
situation where international laws are being used without being
Hello.
domesticated, and a lot of things. And I have a problem with that. Let's pick up this caller. Good evening.
Hello.
Good evening, sir.
Hello.
Hello, good evening to you.
Good evening.
What's your name, sir, and where are you calling us from?
This is Karanyembe calling you from Mumwa.
You are who?
Karanyembe.
Mr. Nyembe.
Mr. Karanyembe.
Oh, Kalwa Nyembe.
Yes.
Kalwa Nyembe.
The unique.
Please speak to the nation.
Sure. I'd like to meet you all in the studio.
Thank you so much.
Mr.
You are doing great.
President, good evening, sir.
Good evening. You've got a unique name.
Hello, good evening, sir.
Good
Good
evening.
evening. Please reduce the volume on your TV set so that we can go fast. Don't
Sure.
listen to the TV. Yes.
All right.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. I've enjoyed the conversation you're having there.
Yes, sir.
It's very developmental and very encouraging.
Yes, sir.
And it is an inspiration to us, the young ones. I'm a youth, I must say.
Yes, sir.
It's very inspirational in the sense that I'm seeing and hearing you, the elders, articulating issues that are very modern. Which sometimes when we think that maybe you elders don't really know about, but I'm impressed that you know about these issues and are able to talk about them in a manner that is very encouraging to us.
Yes, sir.
But just a quick one for Mr. President.
Yes.
So in all that you will say, I want to know what plans you have for the youth. Because the president coming, president go, they seem to be talking about the same issue about the youth, which I term as you hammer us on the head with the issue of unemployment. And so the promise is that you are going to provide employment to the youth. But president coming and president go, that employment is not sure. And the man was sitting next to Mr. Chiruma seems to have good ideas and plans for the nation on how the youth can benefit and decide how the nation's economy can grow. So, sir, Mr. President, how are you going to improve the welfare of the youth? There you need to clarify it, and then you have to afford the youth. Sure.
Mr. President, the youth.
This question always comes up. It's a bigger problem than the youths themselves, because when you reach a stage as a nation where you have no middle class, it has been obliterated, and even if the little remnants of the middle class that are there, who are trying to do something, pastor like yourself, you're in, I'm not talking about the church, but you're in this media field. This should be a thriving business that should employ more people.
Not only media. We have 50 registered players with fuzz. We are having the boys.
That's it. Yeah. Well, when you go sport, that's another topic altogether. But I'm just saying that a lot of youth sitting at home, number one, are in search of employment. There's being employed, and then there's starting your own business. A lot of youth lack the experience to start their own business, so they're looking for jobs. And you need to create a middle class that is going to employ people. How do you create that middle class when it's collapsed? That is the role of the citizens' economic empowerment, because it's a recognition that our middle class has collapsed. It's supposed to create and empower businesses that will absorb the youth. One of the most simplistic answers people give is that of going to the land, agriculture. But the youths, there are youths who are graduating in pharmacy, there are youths who are graduating in medicine. The model that we are using right now of employing youth into government is actually archaic and it has failed. Government cannot absorb the youth. You have to create capacity in the private sector. That is the one which will absorb the youth. And also, one thing that we are doing wrong is that creating an employment mentality. The best example are lawyers. Lawyers will employ young upcoming lawyers into their firms, but they never make them comfortable. They see money coming in, but they never make them comfortable. Very soon, those young lawyers branch off and form their own law firms. So the legal fraternity is an example of a sector that is producing more independent youths than any other sector. Then there is also IT, but there is still capacity that needs to be created by the citizens' economic empowerment, because that, it is not about dishing out money. It has to do capacity building. Some of it is technical support.
But Mr. Kalianyembe is asking, how are you going to do it? Because
that's exactly what
MMD, I mean UPND, they've created 30,000 people, I'm told. I mean 30,000 teachers.
Jobs, yes.
And also others, by the way, are supposed to be on the payroll. The whole thing going on, but we'll leave that. They've come out to say, we are employing this. So if you are to answer to him, what are some of the measures are you going to take up to absorb
it's the private sector, not government,
the private sector
that will absorb, because the 30,000 that have been employed, 70,000 or more have not been employed. So why are they going to sit at home waiting for government? You have to create capacity in the private schools to absorb those.
In fact, 16 million people, we are 18 million, 16 million people, probably they need jobs.
Yes, but you got to go sector by sector. So if you look at the 70 that haven't been employed by government, you cannot tell them to wait until government finds money. No, you have to look at the formula. What is wrong with our current teaching sector? It's because government wants to give grant. If government was paying for pupils, what it would mean is that they would go to a private school and push some of the students there. And if government pays, the school will have capacity to absorb more teachers. All the private schools, the problem they have is liquidity. Parents can't pay, half the parents haven't paid. If government goes in America, yesterday I was listening to the radio, there is government grants that are given to private schools to absorb more students. But they don't give the grant to the student, they give a bursary. They don't give a grant to the school. No, you don't come with money and give the school. You go and pay, the government must pay for the students and pupils. That will create capacity for the same schools, private schools, to employ more people. It improves their liquidity. The old system from 1964 is a grant. A grant is an excuse for failing to provide good education, meaning you give the school, which needs 100%, you give it 40% and government runs away. Broken windows, broken chairs. But if you pay for the students, if government fails to pay for the student, it will be clear who's the problem. It's government. So you've got to change the entire framework of how we provide education. If you go to the health sector, same problem. Grants to hospitals. And in the meantime, low salaries for doctors, low whatever and everything. Yet, if you go and say government, which is what NIMA is doing, government will now be paying, you go to private hospitals. So those private hospitals will have more people coming. So they will absorb more medical staff. So you need to use a different formula. And so in answering his question, we can go sector by sector. Sport is a profession. It's a talent. If you are gifted, you have physical intelligence, that should make you money. That is Serena Williams, that's Tiger Woods, that is Hamzala.
Roger Federer.
That's Roger Federer. It's physical talent. Even if you haven't gone to school.
And it brings in more money.
It brings in money. We have failed to commercialize. What's commercialization? It's a linkage between the commercial world and sport. Because people want to watch sport, and therefore you link the two. That is one of the things we failed. And I would like to borrow from your example of the golf club, that if you go to countries which have 2% unemployment, councils themselves provide community services in terms of sport to keep the youth busy. And they also employ talented people in various sports to engage communities. Those of you who grew up in the Copper Belt would understand what the mines did. But the mine's dream was short-lived because the mine was a private company. And at some point, that holiday couldn't continue. If that model was under the council, and don't talk about the council in its current form, you have to completely change the functioning of our councils. But that is where you provide community services. That can absorb a lot of youth.
I want to, at this juncture, following up what my brother said, Mr. Kalianyembe, you see, this year, I've been appealing to the Zambians to say, please help us with the boats. Most of the soccer academies you go to here, I won't mention, there are some foreigners here who are charging $100 per month for a boy to be taught how to play soccer here in Lusaka. And the viewers, they know what I'm talking about. There are some academies who are charging 500 kwacha, 200 kwacha per month. And when I looked at that with my wife, we said, no. President, we are sacrificing a lot with my wife. We cook for the boys. We have a house where we have accommodated some people. The boys don't have what it takes. For the passion of proving to this nation that sport can generate money, we are looking at their future and everything. Do you know that boys who could not pay even 100 kwacha to some academy, they are at Camnet Stars? This is why we call it a local national team. Not a Zambia national team, a local national team. Let me pick up this call. We'll go back to that. Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
What's your name and where are you calling us from, sir?
My name is Justin. I'm calling from Freya.
Is that Pastor Bwadia?
Yes, sir.
Pastor, please go ahead and contribute. How is our family?
We are permanently blessed.
Absolutely. Please go ahead and contribute to the nation.
Yeah, good evening, President.
Good evening, Pastor.
Yeah, I have two concerns or two contributions to make. The first one is on the recent happening of the arrest of President Sean Tembo, using the law of the defamation of the president. Just following upon what you were saying. Just a few months ago, Mr. William Tekelebanda of the UPND, who is an advisor to them, I think the party president, who is also the head of state, insulted Madam Kateka on national TV. Madam Kateka of the New Heritage Party. He was never condemned, he was never arrested. For this selective justice that you are the president, that you are promoting, is not good, sir. Let's be fair. If someone from the ruling party does something that is wrong, he is not arrested, but glorified. If someone from the opposition does exactly the same thing that the other person from the ruling party did. Is incarcerated without a charge, for more than 3-4 days. It's not right for the future of this country. We should not politicize the criminal justice or our laws in this country. Our laws must apply fairly, both to those in the ruling party and also in the opposition, and also to all Zambians. Because Zambia is bigger than the political parties. All of us are stakeholders, are members, are citizens of this country. The second one is on the day happening, the rights and others. We saw what happened during the previous time. This was after a very contentious issue. Even when President Congo was the head of state, was interviewed by that lady from BBC, where the president said, according to him, those people that were sick and they needed help. It was a conservation issue, and an ambassador was there. America was actually ejected from Zambia. What did the PF government use to incarcerate those two gentlemen, which law cannot apply to the European government? Thank you so much.
President, he has raised two pertinent issues. Have you seen the video of Mr. William Banda?
I read the comments.
No. The video,
I haven't seen, no.
Where she talked about President Kateka. That is our father, Mr. William Banda. But when you listen to that, you start wondering where we are going to as a nation. So the pastor is asking, why has he not been questioned or picked up?
Well, truth be told, in the law, there is the state president's defamation. The William Banda issue is the equality of politics. People like Mr. Banda, it's politics of yesterday. Yeah, it's a dying breed, and it's only the Zambian people that can kill that type of politician in terms of getting rid of them, that type of culture. So I'm afraid I find it difficult to discuss that type of politics and politicians. I think we must reach a stage where we are dealing with progressive politics. A lot of the people react to please their master. The kind of politics we see, and this is derived from the amount of power a president has, because all the lieutenants of a president in Zambia, all the ministers, when they are speaking, you can see they're not talking to the people. They're actually trying to please the president.
They become untouchable.
Exactly, but they don't really represent the people. They do it so that the president keeps them in their jobs and that kind of thing. So even in the party structures, people like Mr. Banda, at this point, even the type of politics is beginning to change. People like that are becoming irrelevant. But if we begin to discuss them every other day,
we empower them.
Yes, they become relevant.
Important.
Because it's some things when people speak, ignore them. Yes, because it's the culture of us setting a high bar that certain type of things will not even be on social media. So I wouldn't really spend any energy to discuss
on such politics.
No, that to me is not an issue.
The 1964 church politics.
Exactly. That is a dying breed, and there's nothing to worry about. The one thing that has happened in the evolution from PF to UPND is that definitely, without doubt, the bar in terms of politics, intellectual content, has improved. There's a lot of politicians who become irrelevant. I don't know whether you've noticed. A lot of prominent names do not know where to fit in. And this is the opportunity for ideological politics. I can sit here for 3 hours and discuss ideas. I don't have a problem. I'm not discussing, neither is our party in existence, for UPND. It's not in existence for UPND. That's why we can't be in an alliance with UPND, because our agenda, our 15-point agenda, and their agenda are totally different. In our belief, there is nothing that UPND is going to do in the next 5 years.
So are you saying those parties which are in alliance with UPND, they think the same, they have the same policies?
No, they have been absorbed by UPND.
How?
What idea? You tell me one point that they took to the table. When parties form an alliance,
Yes.
you compare what UPND had and what the other people are bringing to the table. As far as I know, I have never seen anything that the alliance partners brought to the table. No, it may be money, it may be something else, but not ideological. They've been absorbed by UPND. They are merely supporting the UPND agenda in saying we have numbers.
An alliance.
That's the alliance. An alliance, if you go to Israel, each party has a position, and so you sit and negotiate. If President Hichilema called me today and said, let's come and talk, let's work together, me and my team have what we'll put on the table. We have 15 points, sir. If you can give us 3, we can work together, at least. But we can't come in with nothing and start learning your manifesto. That's not an alliance. It is just a semblance of an alliance, but it's not an alliance.
The pastor also talked about these people with other rights. Let me say this, President Sengalumbwe. Africa is in trouble. Many years ago, probably 6, 7 years ago, we were in Ethiopia. And as we were driving to the, Africa Union building, because we go there and join Dr. Beta. So at one point we have breakfast with presidents during the Africa Union meetings. So we leave our vehicles, we leave the hotels, go to one place, we assemble, and we are taken in buses to Africa Union. The man who sat next to me is saying, Pastor Chiluba, I'm a Christian. I sit in the United Nations, a top man. These land Africans. And he said, do you know that we found it difficult? United Nations has drafted a law that any African country, to be supported financially, they must agree to these human rights, gay rights, homosexuality, whatever. They must, failure to which no loan should be given. And that is being driven. This is why I have compiled about 15 presidents in Africa who have said no, being interviewed by Al Jazeera, BBC, or CNN, and they say, away with that, that's not African. What would you say as a president? You are voted into power.
I think the position is, first of all, my beliefs as a believer are biblical. So I almost find it not debatable, because if the cultural beliefs and the biblical beliefs are united, I would like to believe, and I would like to share with my brothers in that LGBT situation, is that in Africa, it is basically against our culture to kiss a girl in public, to even hold her hand in public. I would like to borrow from other cultures. The Indian culture, the dressing today hasn't changed. Our people today like to quickly rush to say, you are backward. No, it's not about being backward. It's about a value system that allows you as a nation to be comfortable with who you are as a nation. Now, when you are not comfortable with who you are as a nation, you want to live the life of another nation, which in the Ten Commandments, it talks about do not covet thy neighbor's property. You are a Zambian, but you just love what is out there. And unfortunately, Pastor, it has been a historical problem. And the challenge we have is, how can we reverse it? It's not only for you pastors in terms of what you are going to preach. It's about the engagement of traditional leaders and the political leaders. And coming back, it's not to fight the youth. No. It's coming up with an agreement of who we are and where we are going to go. Is it too late for us to do that? Because definitely we are at variance. And this problem is not going to go away unless we address it in a systematic manner. Because what it is, Pastor, is if I am in that situation, I'm LGBT, one of the members, the world is a very big place.
You are not, God
forbid. You
forbid.
can jump on a plane and go to a place where it's acceptable. Here, the fear is when it becomes open, it means you are converting even those who are not. That's one of the fears. That you are converting even those who are not. Because if I'm LGBT and I find a young boy and I want to befriend him and convert him, that's our problem in our culture. Because that is a condition.
But is there a law? That's what the pastor said. Because
he did make mention of the Kapiri case.
Yes.
The two people were incarcerated. And as far as I know, that hasn't changed. Well, when did it change? It hasn't changed.
So why is it not being applied here?
Yeah,
that's the question.
Yeah, I wouldn't be able to answer that question.
This is why I'm saying again, these so-called law enforcing agencies, they've got double standards. Let me tell you, President Chisengalombo, me, I don't speak out of fear or out of pleasing anybody. If a law is there, you steal this, you'll be caught. Apply it everywhere, you know. Apply it everywhere. To become selective and become conscious and what? This is why I'm saying it's not fair in this nation. Zambia Police, DEC, Anti-Corruption Commission, and all these investigating nani, they should not just be press happy. Ngavaikata suspect, wangu press. There are issues here which are more pressing. Vale tuwe atina tuikataba I group. Yale Stefia Masalamush kumbali yamush. Arrest them, tuavamona, then we say mulebomba. Not Bamona Mushwati Avanga to Avekata. America will be on our throat, or ambassadors will be there. I think that to me. Anyway, let me leave that.
You are very passionate about it, and I understand.
What is your say on $1.3 billion which IMF has given us? Is it something that we should celebrate as a nation? Has IMF helped any country to prosper or not? What are the advantages and disadvantages of the 1.3 billion?
Well, it's been discussed from various angles. One thing that I have noticed about African countries, there are a lot of things that we need to have done that we don't do. And it only comes because, you see, we apply populist policies where we keep giving people what they want, not what they need. So when people cry employment, we come rushing with 30,000 jobs. People cry development, we come rushing with CDF. So what IMF does is that it comes in and stops the populist policies. The problem is not IMF. The problem is us, the African countries. It's not been IMF. The problem is us, because we shouldn't even have been in that situation considering our wealth. But because we use populist policies, every government that comes in wants to stay in power. And therefore it starts looking for what people want, not what they need. What they need is painful, because what they need is to think, and you're lazy to think. Then you will have a problem. So on the IMF deal, it is not an end. It's a means to an end. And in between, you have to do certain things as a nation. What is not coming out is, what are we going to do even when that IMF money becomes due? There is no program that has been elaborated. We're just postponing the pain. And one thing that disappointed me is that when the UPND was coming into power, they were singing IMF, IMF. Now, you've got people who've given you money to build roads, the Chinese and whoever else, the other lenders. They've given you money already. And so you come into power. Where do you go first? To look for new money or to go and speak to the people who you owe money? You start with the people you already owe money. Because they may give you certain conditions even before you go to IMF. But the story was IMF even before UPND came into power. Coming into power, dash off to Washington. Now, what does that make people who have been your partners? It may not have been done correctly, whatever the case, but already you have a problem. Now you are on the back foot, because after you come from there, that's when you go now to those who already had given you money. How are they looking at you? We already have a problem. So the IMF deal may be something that we needed because we had defaulted. But the issue is, where to from now? Because we are growing the size of government. We are recruiting more people. When IMF comes and says, freeze wages, what is IMF telling you? That stop employing into government. It's not freezing wages for the private sector. That's what freezing a wage means. It's a message. Go and create employment out there for the youth and everybody. They're not saying private sector should freeze wages. Because they've found you recruiting more soldiers, more policemen, more whatever, on a tax base that is dwindled. All the money is being gobbled by government, which is what is called over-governance. When you get all your money that you've earned and spend it on running the government without providing services to the people, creating capacity in the economy.
President, rich as Zambia is with minerals, we can't raise 1.5 or 2.5 million dollars or from the minerals what we have.
We used to be rich. We encumbered ourselves and roped ourselves with bungled up privatizations. We used to be rich. We are no longer. The mines are encumbered. One Sadio Mane, a footballer, can build hospitals. There are other avenues by which you can create wealth. Zambia has talent in sport, which is totally ignored. In South Africa, musicians are contributing to the economy. Sportsmen are contributing to the economy. Why? Go and look at the investment in community services and in sport, both in schools.
And in Nigeria, the actors are contributing a lot to the economy.
So everything has collapsed because we are focused only on promoting certain segments of the population. But the results by the Copper Queens, the results by Hamza, the athlete, and the boxers is an indication that even without support, we have talent.
I'll show you something, Mr. Director. Will prepare me the Camnet Stars log sheet. I want to thank the Commandant of the National Service in our quest to show that we're born for greatness. The Commandant of the National Service with his generals there, they gave Camnet Stars the Division 2 team, which was in Lusaka West.
Yeah.
We took it over. The coaches dropped other players, took some few, blended them with ours. But these boys, like I said, without boots. They've got boots, but some of them, like I keep on saying, you would cry. Now imagine, President, we have 50 boys. 25 are in the they are in Division 4. 25 are in Division 2, registered with FARS.
Yeah.
And these boys, soon they will be in different places. All I can ask for is for 100 Zambians to help me with 1 boot or 2 boots. We facilitate with these boys. Look at I'll ask my director to put the log sheet. You see where Camnet is. This is Division 2 FAS.
Yeah.
My director, look at where we are.
Wow.
Okay?
Wow.
Number 1 slot there, Camnet Stars. We have played 2. Just bring it down a little bit, my director. Just bring it a little bit down. It's going so fast. Oh, okay. My director wants to show everything.
Oh, yeah, we're running through Missus here.
Bring it down, Mr. Director. I want where Camnet is. If you can bring the champions down.
Okay.
Anyway, I don't know. The director's got his own. Okay, there he is. Have you seen Camnet Stars? We have played 2 games. We have won 2. No draw, no what, 6 points. We are leading. This is Division 2, FAS, week 2.
Oh, well done.
And these boys, President, when you see the talent in there, boys who have got, some of them have no parents. Some of them have got totally not even 50 kwacha to come for training. Not even 20 kwacha. Sorry to say this. The difference between America, Nigerians, and some countries, they support one another. But when you look at a team like Camnet, when President Brown looks at it, he says, oh, it's for Pastor Chiluba. I can't support. Unless it's for Hussein or...
Yeah.
This is the problem that I find. But we are creating employment for these boys.
Never mind employment, activity.
Activity.
First you got to... You see, Pastor, what we have, never mind sports, never mind music. Zambia as an economy will never prosper without economic connectivity. There is a connection between sport and business where both are benefiting. That's the reason why there is a void. Now, government has no program to create that connectivity because business must be seen to be benefiting from sport. Now, if you don't have sport in schools, the sports teachers are missing, music teachers are missing. The people in the graduates you are getting do not appreciate sport, and so they don't watch. And without a crowd, you will have no support from the commercial world. And this is the connectivity that we need to create, because sport is like what you are doing. You should be sitting on a lot of money because business, people who sell soap and whatever, whether it's in the high density areas where people are, and come to watch your boys, because wherever you play, people come and stand and watch.
Absolutely.
Exactly. But we need to create sport for business people to appreciate sport. They themselves should have participated.
And why is it that companies who invest in Zambia don't support community things like Camnet Stars, and why is it so?
Yeah, because there is no connectivity, which you also mentioned earlier on before the program, which is social
corporate responsibility.
It shouldn't really. It's short term. If government compels businesses, government must create the environment that makes it beneficial for companies to
plow back.
Yes, you shouldn't be begging. They should be scrambling to come and sponsor your sport. Because if you remember, Pastor, many years ago, national teams had to buy their own uniform. What is the situation today? It's those companies that make those uniforms that are clamoring to sponsor national teams. So if you qualify for the World Cup, for instance, you have Adidas, Puma, and whatever, all these companies fighting to sponsor so that they can put their emblem there because it's part of marketing. Now, that connectivity in Zambia's economy, there is no connectivity. Yes, those who are making money are banking the money. They like to see the money sitting in the bank. or they put it in cement. That's why we are dying. And you are struggling.
Before we close, I forgot one segment of reading the text messages.
Okay,
Let me be faithful to those people that have sent their text. Mr. Director, if you can, please give us one text after another so that we can. Good evening, how are you? I am Akim Chola from Mondola. I always want to speak with you, Pastor, but I don't, through you. I like the topic. Okay, Mr. Chola, I'll give you the number. Another text, Mr. Director, one after another, if we can read. Our government to use their overwhelming mandate not to amend but rewrite the whole constitution. Abe Omlenga from Chipata. Okay.
Very true.
Okay. Kindly explain, sir, the meaning of Romans chapter 13, verse 1 to 6. This is the in regard to defamation. Defamation, the head of state. Thank you, Commissioner Chela of Kabwe. Commissioner, I'll get in touch with you. That one we cannot discuss now. We are in the dying minutes of the NAN. What's this? Answer is Fimba. What's this? The answer is Fimbo Poke. How can we vote for them here in the Kwacha constituency? What is this? Fimbo Poke?
No, it's coded language, so I think we shouldn't really be thinking. It's not clear.
Okay, Pastor, the problem is that we do not value what is ours, and so we do not also value community. Continuity. Our own predecessors become our enemies, and our ancestors are treated as very bad. It is high time we needed to build on what our predecessors have started. Ministry of National Guidance and Religious Affairs was so strategic. If Zambia is a Christian nation, is it wrong for the church to have representation in cabinet? Let's take the last text message. Oh, my director's logged out.
Okay.
We are into news time. Okay. And these things, they become so so loaded up and heated up. My president, your last words to the nation. What is your advice to the UPND government on the constitution?
Yeah, I think not really. It's not really about thinking. Let's not focus on the less important things. The constitution is the most important thing that we must deal with as a nation, because that is the foundation that we will build on, so that we can deal with all the issues. The current legal framework is creating, there's no need for us to be talking about defamation today, whatever. There's no need for us to talk about by-elections. A lot of things we're discussing are irrelevant to the nation, because it's the legal framework and the constitution we must focus on. And so I would like to also appeal to the Justice Minister that please do not touch the constitution. Do not pick what you feel are non-contentious. Give us a roadmap, give us a technical committee, and give us the terms of reference and the budget. The technical committee will run independent of government. Let's finish long before election time so that we have time to discuss. I think we need to be given the roadmap today and not tomorrow, Pastor.
Amen. Well, dear Camden TV viewers, this is where we come to the end of our program on national matters. Today, my guest was President Brian Sengalumbwe, President of the United Front for a Strong Foundation. Where are your offices? How can the people reach you?
We are in Chilanga, but you have our numbers here. Basically, our offices are based in Chilanga.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just go on Google and everywhere. We don't encourage giving private numbers on this program. And this is President Chisenga Rombo. If you can't catch him anywhere, just go to Lusaka Golf Club. He's an addict of golf.
Just say he's a sportsman.
He moved from basketball to golf, converted.
I was a boxer also, Pastor.
You see now.
And a fencer, fencing, swords. I did that also, and I swam. And that all I learned in school.
Oh,
yes.
Multi-talented. Ladies and gentlemen, those of you that support funny clubs outside the country, you must switch on to Camnet Stars, because these boys, they are not called local national team for nothing. They are no. They are not the national team, but the local national team, because we have boys from Kasama, Mongo, they're all Zambia.
Yeah.
They come, and those of you who know how to play soccer and you feel that you were born for greatness, visit our coaching staff at Kablonga Secondary School, Kablonga Boys Secondary School. The grounds there, you'll find Camnet Stars, and come and join them. You never know. On behalf of my wife, Pastor Victoria, who is the CEO for this broadcast, and on behalf of the church leadership and the technical people, the Camnet crew members, you are just fantastic. And I am so grateful to you, viewers. You've been awesome. For those of you that pray for us, that support us financially, those of you that are just there for us, may God richly bless you. By the way, on Wednesday, which is the 7th of this month, Camnet TV will be celebrating 6 years in existence. We are growing like Mike Tyson. We are very grateful to the Lord for what God has done.
Congratulations.
Amen. As from me, I can simply say, keep watching Camnet TV. And you know that Camnet TV is not just another channel. Bye-bye.